Today is the 15th of November 2025, and a few days ago I got my permanent residence visa in Australia, the 190, and I'm really happy because it took a long time. It took more than 24 months to get it. I wanted to compile here a little explanation of all the steps I had to go through for future reference and for anyone that might be interested in doing the same visa. So my first step to migrate to Australia was to get the student visa, Subclass 500. Back in the day it was $650 and I had to ensure a university sponsor. Mine was for a PhD. I had to apply for a scholarship and so on, but other people can do like a master's or a bachelor, or they can do like another type of degree. They can even do English classes. So there's many things you can do with this visa. Yeah, many things you can study. The processing time for this one is around 1 to 2 days, depending on the timing and which country you come from, I think. After the student visa, I did temporary graduate work 485 visa. This one was a little bit more expensive, $1,800, after 3 years with a student visa. So in 2021, I applied for the 485 and I got it instantly. I heard that this is really rare, but I don't exactly know why I was so lucky, but the minute I applied, that's when I got it. It was really lucky for me. But you'll see why this, doesn't always mean I'll be lucky with visas. So I applied this after graduating from the degree I was doing. I did a master's in mathematics after lowering from a PhD level. And then, so essentially what I wrote here is that I needed basically all the typical documents, the degree evidence, you finish the degree and then you need to show that you finished the degree, and you use it to apply for the 485. This will allow you to work like in your field, because while you are with a student visa, you can still work, but with limited hours. In my case, I could work up to 20 hours. I think most cases are like that. Then after getting the 485, I needed to get enough work experience. I think the minimum was 1 year relevant work experience, and then check if my profession is in the migration list. And this is the tricky part, like depending on which degree you take and which profession you're doing, you have to see which list you are in. One of the lists is more in demand, the other one is less in demand. I don't remember which one it is. I think the short list is the one in less demand. I think that's where mathematics lands, because I did mathematics. Depending on which list you land, you can apply for a permanent resident visa or another one. There's a bunch of them to pick from. You can be sponsored by your company or not. In my case, I couldn't be sponsored by my company, and I couldn't do like completely independent. I had to be nominated by the state. Since I wanted to be nominated by Queensland, I decided to go for the 190. It was the best fit for me. Actually, I think it was the only fit for me. After doing these checks that you have 1 year relevant work experience and your profession is in a given migration list, so you know which visa you're applying for, the 190, the 189, the 186, all these permanent resident visas, then you have to do a skills assessment. They actually check if you have the relevant experience, and this can be a pain depending on which profession you're in. I had to pay over $1,000 to do this skills assessment. I did with VetAssess. VetAssess is specifically for mathematicians and I think statisticians and maybe accountants, I'm not sure. It was really painful to do with VetAssess. They were really bad. They outsource a lot of people from other countries that, maybe they're not as familiar with the Australian law, or they don't work with the same pace as you work here. And so they were taking forever to analyze my documents, and they kept asking for the same stuff, and it was really painful. So back and forth, document requests, dreadful experience. I do not recommend VetAssess. Anyway, maybe other people had better experience. Then I had to wait. Overall, I waited 5 months for the skills assessment to be done. It started around February 2023, and it went all the way to like July 2023. That's roughly the time that I had a positive skills assessment. So they send you back a document saying this is the amount of relevant work experience you have. So that's when I knew I had enough. That's the document that I'm going to use to apply for the permanent residence. So now you have to apply for expression of interest for state nomination. This will put you in contact with the state that you're applying through or with, and they will assess your documentation. So only after they nominate you, then you can apply for the 190. You can apply for multiple states. I see online people asking if they can apply for New South Wales at the same time that they apply for Victoria or Queensland. Yeah, you can send multiple expression of interest. It's totally fine. You don't have to pay extra. And the first one that will invite you is the first one you can take. You can also ignore, I think, but if you want to apply for multiple at the same time, because you might have a remote job or you might have a prospect of having a new job in that state, then it makes sense to pick the first one. Why else would you apply for so many states, right? Then you will get an email requesting further documentation and to pay for that state. You will upload all your documents and then pay the fee. In this case, I had to pay $330 because it's onshore. I was in Australia, and you have to do it within 14 calendar days. Then I had to wait around 4 weeks, and that's when you receive a state email to approve your nomination. So I had to wait 4 weeks, but I think a lot of people might have to wait more. Some people wait less. I think I was lucky to just wait 4 weeks. I heard cases of people waiting 5 months. So here I wrote that a government invitation to apply email from the Department of Home Affairs is supposed to arrive 1 minute after the state email, but I didn't get it actually. There was a technical issue. So I had to send an email to contact us at migration.queensland.gov.au. I'll write it here, to ask how long to wait for that invitation to apply, so ITA. They managed to solve the technical error after a few days. So if it happens to you, it might be a technical error. You should be getting this email 1 minute after the state email. The government email with the final invitation to apply comes after, which looks like this. So after you get this email, you can start making preparations for the documentation for the 190. Police checks have to be from Australia and from all countries that you lived in since you're 16 years old for over 12 months. So if you lived in a place for over 12 months, over a year, you have to have the police check. That can be really annoying if you moved a lot before coming to Australia. In my case, I didn't. I only had my home country, Portugal, and Australia. So I just had to ask that. So when applying for the Australian police check online, I got stuck in a little technical issue. I was not being able to upload the identity documents. It kept giving an error message. After some exploring, I found out that if you turn on your VPN, it works. So if it happens to you, it might be because of the VPN being off. I don't know why. And then when you're receiving the police check via email, the PDF might have limited permission, not allowing you to print the PDF, but you can unlock the PDF using an online tool. My favorite is I Love PDF. It's a really good project. Then for my Portuguese criminal record, I requested it via the DGAJ. This is just for Portuguese people. Nobody will care if you know Portuguese. They're actually really fast. There's an option here, Fora de Portugal, which is outside of Portugal. That was really useful. Since I didn't have the chave móvel or the card reader, I had to opt for the third option, where they provide a form that we are required to fill and submit on their website. This process took over 10 business days, where the Australian process takes like a couple of days. And I had to call a few times to check on the status. There's like a number that you can call. You have 60 days to apply for the permanent residence visa. So during that time, that's when you gather these documentations, and you have to pay the fee within that time as well. So the fee back in the day was 4,700 Australian dollars. I'm sure it's more expensive now. Then you have to do the mandatory medical checks as soon as possible using the provided links after the application. It's a bit weird, because you first pay and then you do the medical checks, but that's how it works. It gets triggered automatically. You book an appointment, I did via Bupa, and you have to pay another fee, which in the time was $470. Then you wait. And I wrote here, and it's really funny because I wrote this in 2023 when I applied. I applied in November 2023. I wrote wait around 12 months because you go to the global processing times and it says, it gives you an estimation for how long you're going to have to wait for your visa, a 50% and a 90% probability. And I wrote here that it was around 12 months, and that's really funny. I mean, really sad. I ended up waiting over 22 months before I got any information back. I felt really impatient. I complained using the migration website after the 17th month waiting. I called a few times to the government to inquire on the delay. One of the times they even suggested for me to write a letter to add to my application, since my waiting time was already after 90% the global processing times. So I thought I probably fit in the category that can complain. But I decided to contact the ombudsman at the same time, but nothing really happened because they want you to go through the whole complaint process that they have in the government website before going to the ombudsman. But it's pretty much the last authority you can go to if some product that the government offers is not up to par. Then you have to wait some more anyway. I got the S56 notification for expired documents after around 22 months, which was basically just for the police check and the medicals. I managed to book and do the medicals 1 hour after I got the S56, just really good timing, because I live close to a Bupa center and they had an opening. I ran there and I just did it straight away. The police check was completed 1 day after and I submitted everything. I thought if I do it really fast after the S56 notification, I should probably get it really fast, right? But it doesn't work like that. I still had to wait 2 months for them to review the process, to review the documentation again. I don't know what they do. Maybe I go back in a queue and then they still have to review regardless of how fast you do the medicals. I don't know. They are very opaque and I didn't like the whole process. So after those 2 months, the visa was granted and it was a total of 24 months and 3 days. And I was really happy. It was just 4 days ago. Because during these 2 years, I've been checking on Reddit, people that have had applied or they have got it granted, the same visa. I decided to also post a little post explaining my process and how long it took so people understand more or less what's going on. I think everybody should do the same because the government doesn't help. They don't provide any statistical tools. Everything is really opaque and makes everybody really stressed and just not knowing when things are going to happen. People that get their visas rejected after a long time of wait must be really frustrated, and I don't think that's nice. If they at least understand there's milestones to go through, it will be better for everybody. It will be a more seamless migration process. But I also appreciate that they are probably understaffed in the government, so it's hard on both sides. So that was it. That was the road to permanent residence. I'm just gonna now summarize my points, just in case you might be interested in this. I saw that in Reddit, people are always really interested in knowing how the point breakdown goes for the 190. So I'm just gonna summarize it here. The point breakdown ends up being 30 for age, 20 for English language. The Australian employment experience was 5 because I had at least 12 months in the 10 years prior to invitation. Education was 15. Specialist education qualification, because I did a master's by research, I got a 10. Then Australian study requirement 5. And then partner, I put no partner, or the partner is already a citizen or a permanent resident. I got a 10. State or territory nomination is 5. So in total I got 100 points, which I think is pretty good. I have a post on Reddit breaking down the dates, and that's my whole journey. I don't recommend anyone doing the 190. If you can go for the 189, I think is the best. Before COVID, it was way easier to get a PR, but right now it's complicated. The 190 is one of the worst. There's a long queue. So yeah, good luck for everyone doing a PR, and especially if it's the 190.